Some words don't just offend people. They expose deeper problems that society keeps trying to ignore. A creator has sparked massive outrage online after suggesting that data centers, which consume huge amounts of water and create pollution, should be built in places like Flint, Michigan, instead of what she called good neighborhoods. And immediately, people saw the issue. Because Flint is not just any city. It's a minority community that has already suffered from years of water contamination and neglect. So when someone says pollution should go there instead of good places, many had something much darker underneath those words. This controversy quickly became, bigger than one video. It became a conversation about race, privilege, and even accountability.
If the whole thing about these data centers is that it's going to use up all of our water and the community is going to die because it has no more access to drinkable water, then why are they putting it in good communities to ruin those communities? Why not places like Flint, Michigan?
One thing I'm really tired of is white people being tone deaf and covertly racist. And this video is a prime example of what I'm talking about. In this video, she makes the comments, why are we putting data centers in good communities? And then references places like Flint, who have suffered from severe environmental injustice and environmental racism. She's completely missing the fact that Flint's population is anywhere between 79 and 81,000 people and is 53% black. Why is it that communities that are either impoverished or majority black and are historically harmed treated as an acceptable sacrifice zone? And last but certainly not least, Flint does have clean drinking water, and they have for the past 5 to 7 years. And yes, a lot of the residents are apprehensive about drinking the water, but you would be too if your city and your state and your government poisoned your entire town and the world sat by and did nothing.
Hold up. What does she mean by saying good communities? And why does she mention Flint, Michigan of all places? This is the demographics of Flint, Michigan, and as you can see, it's a minority population. But surely she knew that, right? Apparently not. This is what she said in a follow-up video.
Guys, I didn't even know the demographics of Flint, Michigan.
What? Now, she did take those videos down, but I don't think she deleted both of them. I think, if anything, she just set them to friends only. Because as you guys know, in the Creator Rewards program, anything over a minute, you can monetize it. The fact she monetized her original video and her apology video says a lot. If I were her, I would just stop posting for a week, maybe even a month, because what she said was just wild. But I have a strange feeling she's going to come back sooner than that because that TikTok money does pay well, especially if you have a good audience.
And why are they putting it in good communities to ruin those communities? Why not places like Flint?
Hi, you don't know me. You probably should, and you will. So, at one point in time, I was one of the biggest witch talkers on the entire internet, one of the biggest witch influencers, because I helped start Witch Talk back pre-COVID. Now, we do give credit to the now deceased Witchfoot for being the official starting and one of the most important educators on this platform, but I was the president of Witch Talk because I got everyone to get along. I coordinated things in the beginning. I would coordinate us doing things where we would talk to people from other communities around the world. So let me get that straight. Witch Talk was partially coordinated by people from Flint. The witches, they get some of their source from Flint. I worked in the funeral industry. My family was one of the ones that got to pick up the people from their homes and take them back to the funeral homes or to the morgues, which means we got to see those families and look in their eyes as their sick, dying children puttered out in front of us, as little babies bled from their fucking heads because of gang violence. Gang violence started by drugs and racism that was flooded into the city. The city in America where the Department of Labor really got its first win. The city where labor rights got started. The city where the concept of free public education was born. I am going to tell every witch, every single one, every hoodoo practitioner, every palo, every bruja, who you are. Because you are wishing for more than just those kids getting sick, cancer, and thyroid problems. You are wishing harm on children. You are wishing harm on the elderly. You are wishing harm on people who have suffered enough. Oh, let's just put it somewhere in Flint because it's already sick and poisoned.
First of all, Flint, Michigan isn't a dumping ground for problems that nobody else wants to deal with. People still live there. Real families, real children. Made a second follow-up apology video that she already deleted where she is saying that anybody suggesting that she's racist is wrong because she had no idea that Flint, Michigan's main demographic was African American. People in Flint, Michigan have been fighting for accountability and just basic human decency for years after one of the biggest public health failures in American history. And you're telling us that you don't know what Flint, Michigan's main demographic is? Clear up some misinformation too, because the people of Flint, Michigan actually do have access to healthy drinking water now. But understandably, many people don't trust the system that already failed them. That crisis didn't somehow make the people of Flint, Michigan's lives less valuable. They too are deserving of having healthy, good community. Because newsflash, data centers don't become less harmful just because they're put in lower income areas. And a lot of the issues that people have raised surrounding the data centers doesn't just involve the water. So why would the solution be, oh, put it where the poor people live, or put it where people already don't have access to the same things as the good community? And it's just like she missed the point entirely when she posted the second apology video.
It was lead poisoning, and it's really important to understand that it was lead poisoning and how absolutely significant it is that they gave lead poisoning to a majority Black city. They started to notice alarmingly high lead levels in children and babies. Now, it's bad enough for an adult, but the thing about lead poisoning is that the neurological and developmental damage from lead poisoning is generally considered irreversible. They gave irreversible developmental and neurological damage to adolescent children whose brains and bodies were still developing. These children will have significant impacts from this for the rest of their lives. That is why it's so significant to understand that it was lead. And how did it happen? See, they switched from Detroit water, from the Detroit River and the Huron, to the Flint River. The difference is that the minerals in the Flint River were more corrosive to the lining of the pipes on an already aging infrastructure. They could have treated the water for $100 a day. They chose not to. The lining of the pipes on that already aging infrastructure wore away, exposing the lead leaching into the water. Those doctors had to fight to get the recognition that this was happening to the children of a majority Black city. Again, bad enough for adults, but children who will now have significant lifelong damage that is irreversible. When it comes to these data centers, they're putting them primarily in rural areas. And you have to understand what these tech people think about the people who live in these rural areas. And the people who live in these rural areas know that. They know that these people think that they are stupid and backwards and won't know the difference and won't understand. And that when they start getting sick, no one's going to give a shit. That's why they're doing it in these rural areas, because they think that by time anybody actually does give a shit, it'll be a settlement, and that's a cost of doing business, and they'll have enough money where it doesn't fucking matter to their bottom line.
This was her apology video.
I'm here to explain myself and apologize. I made a video that went viral. Occasionally I make videos trying to help support smaller creators or like people's GoFundMe to try to help whatever it is they're pushing, and occasionally it completely bites me in the butt.
And that's all I could get through. This woman has over 500,000 followers. I will tag her in the caption below. And as someone who also has over 500,000 followers, I needed to be very, very clear that when you stand up on your platform with 500,000 people listening to you with a microphone, it is your responsibility to decide what comes out of your mouth, how it is edited, and then whether or not you hit post. I know this. I live by this. This is not something that we are going to try and flip around and try to say, oh, well, I was trying to help a small creator. No,
First of all, creators are creators, whether you are big or small. Don't you forget where you came from, honey. Because I remember having 223 followers and making my first viral video. You do not forget where you come from, because it is the people on that following list that keep you going and keep you relevant. I am just so upset by this, because I truly believe that ethical content creation includes owning what you say. When I say things that are controversial, when I call out creators that other people like, when I say things you don't agree with, I say them with my whole chest, and I say them with 10 toes down, because I know that I have control over what I say, how it is edited, and then what I post. And then if there is a need to make an apology, you do not start with, well, it was just some small creators GoFundMe. That's not an apology. An apology is saying, I said these things. I was incredibly wrong. I am sorry, and here is how I am going to do better moving forward. This is, I don't even know. It's disgusting.
What made people even angrier was not just the statement itself, but the meaning behind it. Words carry weight. And when someone casually, separates good neighborhoods from a city like Flint, people naturally ask what exactly makes one community good and another disposable. Critics argued that even if she claimed ignorance about Flint's demographics, the language still reflected systemic bias. Flint is a city known for suffering through a water crisis for years, and many felt her comments suggested that communities already struggling should continue carrying society's environmental burdens. Then the, backlash intensified after people discovered she monetized both the original video and the apology. To many viewers, it no longer felt like a mistake. It felt like outrage was becoming content. Now, this entire situation shows why people need to become more careful with the language they use online, especially when discussing communities that have, already experienced pain and neglect. Because sometimes a single sentence can reveal how society subconsciously views certain groups of people. The creator argued that her point was never about race. She claimed she only mentioned Flint because the city already has a history of contaminated water, and her logic was that data centers should be placed in areas where water is already compromised instead of destroying freshwater sources in other communities. On the surface, some people may understand what she was trying to say. Data centers genuinely do consume massive amounts of water, and environmental concerns surrounding them are, they are very real. But the problem is not just what she said. The problem is how she said it. When you describe certain areas as good neighborhoods while suggesting polluted industrial facilities should be pushed into places like Flint, people hear a dangerous message. Whether intentional or not, it creates the impression that some communities deserve protection while others are acceptable sacrifice zones. And that is exactly why so many people reacted emotionally to her comments. Flint is not just famous for contaminated water. It represents years of systemic failure, neglect, and even justice. Families there have spent years fighting for clean drinking water, accountability, and basic human dignity. So hearing someone casually use the city as an example of where pollution should go naturally triggered outrage online. And this situation also highlights something bigger about internet culture today. Social media moves fast, but accountability moves even faster. The moment controversial words leave your mouth online, people begin analyzing not only what you said, but the deeper meaning behind it. Many people believed her comments reflected unconscious racial and class bias, especially because Flint is a majority black and a lower income city. Even her defense made people more frustrated, saying, I didn't know the demographics did not convince many viewers because people felt the implication was still there. Critics argued that ignorance does not erase impact. Sometimes people reveal harmful ideas without realizing it themselves. And that is why self-awareness matters so much in public conversations. Then came another layer of backlash, monetization. People discovered that both the original video and the apology video were allegedly monetized before being removed or, restricted. And for many viewers, that changed everything. Because once money enters the conversation, audience begin questioning, sincerity. Were the apologies genuine, or was the controversy simply generating engagement, views, and revenue? This is why creators today have to understand the responsibility that comes with having a platform. Millions of people consume online content every single day, and careless statements can reinforce harmful stereotypes without people even noticing. Words shape perceptions. They influence how society views certain communities, races, and even economic classes. At the same time, this controversy has also sparked important conversation about environmental justice. Why do poorer communities and minority neighborhoods so often become locations for pollution-heavy industries? Why are some places treated as more worthy of protection than others? These are uncomfortable discussions, but they are necessary ones. In the end, this situation became bigger than one creator making one controversial statement. It exposed how language, privilege, race, class, and internet culture all collide online. And maybe the biggest lesson here is this. Before speaking publicly, especially on sensitive topics, people need to think carefully about the hidden meaning, their words can carry. Because online, it only takes one sentence to reveal far more than you intended. Guys, drop your thoughts, let me know. Also, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share as well. And until next time, bye-bye.